And we'll do a roll call of members. I'll start with me, Charles Funk.
Carl Falsgraf.
Garth Bean.
Jesse Burnham.
Judy Austin.
Angie DeSanto.
This is Esther. I'm online. I didn't know you had to push *6.
Hey, Esther, glad you're here.
Okay, I kept pushing the mute button off and on and getting pissed, but *6 does it.
Are we missing any full members?
Carl.
No, Carl's
I'm
here.
Oh, Butch isn't here. That's right.
Yep.
He's not a member.
Yeah, Butch is an alternate.
Chuck, John Kopak, I'm here too.
Yep. Oh, that's right. Good. John. Good. All right. So we don't need to seat anyone.
Catherine ex officio.
And Catherine's here. Yep. Very good. Next agenda item is communications. Today I have none. Next agenda item 4 is public comments. Anybody have any comments from the public? Paul?
Oh, Happy New Year. Here we go.
All right, very good. Approved minutes of the regular meeting, Thursday, December 10th, 2020. The only thing that I saw and was requested to modify was on the last paragraph of the first page. The paragraph starts with, since the revaluation of property contract for software that covered the 2016 through 2020 is now up, the town assessor and tax collector have both concluded that they have more confidence in yada, yada, yada. The tax collector contacted me and wanted me to remove her from that language, as she did not render an opinion on it, as it's more of an assessor issue. So I think the way that sentence should really read is, since the valuation of property contract for software that covered the 2016 through 2020 is now up, town assessor has concluded that she has more confidence in and would prefer to continue with a 5-year contract for the equality software. So we'll make that slight modification. Otherwise, I saw nothing else. Was there anything else that anybody had a concern with? If not, then I'll need a motion.
Move to accept.
Do I have a second?
Jesse Burnham, second.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the minutes with the corrections as stated?
Aye.
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 I think I abstain. I wasn't here, right, Chuck?
You were not here. Yep. So you'll abstain. So I think I have 3 ayes. Is
This is
Garth there?
Esther. I'm not
Yes.
seated, so I'm not abstaining.
Yeah, right. Garth, are you there?
I am. You can mark me as an I.
Oh, yeah, there you are. Yep. Do you have a positive vote?
Yes.
Uh,
And a negative test.
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Who is on the telephone?
Carl is on the telephone.
Yeah, but his name is there. There's a
Yeah.
telephone number with no name.
The other one is Esther.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Michael, is there a way to put Esther's name instead of the telephone number?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Thank you. Opposed?
What was the number again?
It's 1-860-840-1958. Right, Esther?
Yes.
Mhm.
That's correct.
Okay. Do I have anyone opposed to the motion for the minutes? And do I have anybody that's abstaining?
Just me, Chuck. Judy Austin.
Motion passes. Thank you. That was harder than it needed to be. New business. I want to introduce Tammy Nucio, our House representative from the 53rd District. And she wanted to introduce herself to our board. Tammy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You guys were voting and I almost said aye. I've been going through so many meetings. I was like, nope, not me. Sorry. I almost feel bad for Catherine. She's been on like every one of these for me in the town. I've been going around to all 3 towns and going to planning and zoning, Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, to kind of introduce myself to everybody. And she has suffered through every single one of these. So.
There's no suffering. There's no suffering. It's fine. I'm glad to have you there.
I feel like I need to apologize for her having to listen to the same thing over and over again.
No, that's good.
But so I am the newly elected representative of the 53rd, and I wanted to reach out and introduce myself to you guys, and to also kind of just have an open discussion, a little bit of dialogue on what it is that you guys need for me to focus on in this legislative session for Ashford. So like I said, I've met with planning and zoning, and Catherine, I actually have to follow up with you on the request from the Board of Ed. So I will be reaching out to you on that.
That's fine.
So I've been just kind of reaching out and talking to everybody. If I have specifics about that board, then I've been talking about that. Like in planning and zoning, we talked a lot about desegregate Connecticut, and Board of Ed, we talked a lot about the ECS and stuff. So this is Board of Finance now. So I already have in my head where I think you guys are probably going to go, but I figured open conversation to just what's important to you this year, what's important for Ashford, and where do I need to kind of have my focus on.
Does anybody want to speak from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about something, but it's kind of a pie in the sky thing.
Listen, I love pie.
Well, you're familiar with the Wagon Shed property in Ashford and Willington that was contaminated, and we've gone for years through many phases of decontamination. But basically, I think it's around 300 acres. And my pie in the sky thing is that instead of us trying to put a solar panel on every roof, we could put 6,000 or 7,000 solar panels there, and it would be a benefit to our governor, who wants us to be off of fossil fuels by the 2030s, and it would be a benefit to Ashford and Willington for their tax base, and it would be a benefit for that land, because even if the decontamination is all done, you could never farm on it, but you could certainly put solar panels on it and not have to worry about the land. But that's a pie in the sky thing, because it would take someone to pull together a bunch of different agencies. And now I'm going to let you go, and that's my pie in the sky.
So please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've learned about that property is, Catherine, it qualifies as a brownfield now, right?
Yes, I can give some summary of wherever you want.
So I'm interested to find out what we've done so far from a brownfield perspective, because there is a lot of movement to kind of help with grant funding and stuff like that to get brownfields kind of up and operational. So I don't know where we stand right now on that. And I know you had said it's a pretty big ticket item to continue the cleanups. So trying to pursue more in the area of brownfield grants. And I don't know, has the town talked about a solar farm there?
Actually, it's a kind of complicated because we don't want to jump ahead too far.
Right.
Because of some of the things that are going on with that property. So what we have done is we have done the first part of cleanup.
Yeah.
We have just gotten pre-approval for the pre-approval of the application for the second part, which means we still would have to submit an application. And I'm just going to, kind of jump to the chase here. We do have to take into account the fact that there are outstanding liens on that property.
Yeah.
Okay, the Department of Environmental Protection has a 282,000 lien. The Environmental Protection Agency has a 4,394,562.87 lien. A note, the EPA removed 3,000 tons of material from the site. Let's see. We have outstanding taxes that are due to Ashford for 865,480. I don't know what they are for Willington. Willington has a much smaller portion of that property than we do. We also have outstanding consent orders. We have one that's against Cattle Rock Properties Joint Venture, LP. Another one issued to Benjamin Schildberg as an individual by the EPA. Another one issued to the estate of Benjamin Schildberg as well. Those consent orders were issued with a focus on the wire burning operation that took place at the Willington lots. And those orders cannot be separated from the whole. So let me go back to the outstanding liens. If we were going to get help with anything, first of all, is to make sure that we do get approved for the second phase of cleanup. But we also have to deal with the Department of Environmental Protection and the Environmental Protection Agency. So once we've completed the cleanup, then comes the time to pull information from the town to figure out what do we really want to do with that property. And I'm going to actually reach out to Bill Folletti. Is this your understanding as well? I know we've talked about it in selectmen's meetings, and this is where we stand at this moment.
Tammy, this whole situation with the former wagon shed property has been going on for years and years. And we've had a environmental group working on it for the past 4 or 5 years, and that's why we've got to where we are right now. We've had several town meetings on it, and it was brought up about what perhaps by the environmental company that's doing the remediation research and everything, sort of asking us what we may have for future plans on that. And our board and the previous board of selectmen felt that we needed to get through this remediation phase first. And then our intention was to go to all of our boards, of course, planning and zoning, conservation, Board of Finance, and asking for input on what the feeling of the
Is Bill frozen?
I think he
Yes.
froze.
So if he doesn't come back, in summary, we need to get through this second phase of cleanup before we can really figure out what we can do with that property. Could we sell it? Could we lease it? You know, what would be appropriate to put on it, you know, and who's interested, if somebody was interested in buying it. But we can't really get there until we get it cleaned up.
Right.
And
So-
to start to speculate too soon really kind of throws things off.
Catherine, can I interrupt for 1
Here's
second?
Bill, yeah.
Bill, are you able to speak now? You're on mute. Bill, you're muted.
That's the #1 quote of 2020, by the way.
Hello.
All right.
Where did you guys last hear me?
You were saying we had been looking at this, more activity over the last 4 or 5 years and kind of left there.
And that you were going to reach out to the various boards.
Right.
Right. And during our several meetings in Hartford with DECD, there was a representative from the governor's office during the previous administration. The consensus was that everybody is looking for a win, Tammy, on this. And for the large number of brownfields throughout the state, the consensus was we probably have one of the easiest ones to remedy and try to lay some groundwork out in a positive nature on what can be done if we all join together, being all the different state agencies, as well as bringing EPA into it. And that's what we're looking forward to. But I think that personally, the next critical thing is getting this next stage of our application approved so we can finish the remediation of the property and then figure out where we go from there.
Yeah, so we're a little fortunate because I am on the I'm on the Commerce Committee, and they deal with the economic stuff, and that's where I started hearing a lot about the grants and the money that they're putting towards brownfields, and they're trying to rehabilitate them and that. So Catherine, maybe you and I should just set up a separate meeting to really kind of zone in on this. And if we want to bring in somebody from Wellington, and then we can find out, you know, where I can maybe pull some levers or talk to people about trying to make sure that we get that application approved. See who we need to talk to, or just making sure that it's like a top of the list. Because if it's an easy to remedy one and it's a good win, they want to show a win on these brownfields. So, you know, let's give them a win.
Yes, and we felt
we actually kind of coined a phrase, and we said we were a beige field.
Beige field.
It wasn't as critical as a brown field.
I don't know. It's still unattractive.
So
But
Tammy,
we
I
did
think
hear our take. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Our take is that we're probably in a very good position. As you said, Tammy, you know, they're looking for a win. And this one, if we can get this completed, this is a big win.
Yeah.
And the nice part about it is that actually there's 2 towns that are involved. Most of their brownfields involve one municipality or whatever. This is a partnership effort that can include 2 towns plus all the state players that are involved, plus the EPA.
Yeah, and if we can reach out, I was just talking to Senator Murphy, their office last week. If we can maybe get some kind of federal help to have some alleviation from the EPA fines, especially because we're rehabilitating the property, that might help kind of, again, help push us. You know, we're looking to rehabilitate this area, and if that fine is going to really be detrimental. So, and if, like you said, when you talk to people, if you figure out what you want to do with it, if you can sell it as something environmental or the solar farm or anything like that, then maybe the EPA would be a little more forgiving.
Yeah, and the EPA is actually already vested in this. They put in several $1 million to do the remediation that we've already done there.
Mhm.
So
So
Tammy, I
wagon
think,
shed, wagon shed's a big one.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's also
so.
referred to as Cadle Rock,
Cable
just so you
Rock.
know.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is I do think our various selectmen along the way have been fairly diligent in moving forward with this, each step of the way. And I do think that they're working well to get this resolved. I think and obviously you'll speak directly with Catherine at some point, but I think from a little bit of an outsider's perspective, I think there's certain steps that we have to go through, like this remediation. And I think maybe once that's been resolved, and maybe you can help slightly with the application, but I think once that's resolved, then maybe we might be in a better place to reach out to you for a more pointed assistance.
Yeah.
I think the point of this particular conversation is just to make you aware that it's something that we're dealing with, and that it's, as Catherine stated, we're in arrears about, $900,000 in taxes, and, it'd be nice to start getting that, and that would, in essence, lower our mill rate for the rest of us.
It
So
absolutely would.
as far as other issues, I think, that's a big one, and like you're going to hear from every Board of Finance, we're looking for some consistent, as early as possible commitment to funding. We're going into budget season, and we've actually delayed our referendum several times because the state, has been a little relaxed in its ability to commit to some level of funding. So, I would say my perspective is as early as possible, and some level of consistent, predictable funding makes our Board of Finance job of passing a budget that much easier. So anyway, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I've been on the town side of that argument for the last quite a few years, and literally down to the hour waiting to see if you're going to be able to hold a referendum or not. It's a terrible place that we're in on the town side, being beholden to that. Only good thing that I have to offer at this point is the governor did just say, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that with the $2 billion that we have to find, that he was not going to look directly to municipals to fund that. So I'm hoping that when his budget comes out in February, it does still show strong support for the municipals. And then we're just going to have to be vocal and fight for that same level in the legislature.
Yeah. Are there any other board members that have either they want to second something or just voice their own concerns while we have Tammy here?
I've got one, Chuck, if nobody else does.
This is John Kopek. Go ahead, John.
I'm not sure if this is, thanks. I'm not sure if this has been answered yet. We're expecting a decrease in our contribution to Region 19 this year because of student enrollment. Have we gotten a solid answer yet what that means for us in terms of MBR?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right, because we're up against budget season. We're going to need to know a solid answer for that. Otherwise, we're up the creek.
So you're saying that your amount that you have to pay to Region 19 is going to be less because of enrollment?
Correct.
That's what's projected.
Okay, so from what I know of MBR, and it's probably about a 15-foot deep, like it's not like a 50-foot deep, but just like the high level of MBR, as long as you can show your reduction, well, there's two parts to it. You can show that your reduction is in relation to enrollment. if you need to take that, you can take that. And the second piece of it is Ashford is on the list of towns that is losing ECS money every year for the next 6 years. And technically, when they released that, the guidance was that if need be, you could reduce your education budget by that amount because the ECS was coming down. So we can ask, if you want to send me a little bit more detail, I can see what I can find out. But I think you should be okay from an MBR perspective to reduce that because it is A, enrollment driven, and B, you're having a reduction in your ECS grant money.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I thought that MBR rules were relaxed.
That's
They
my
were,
understanding. I
it used to
believe
be,
last
it used
year.
to be 1 year, like it was your enrollment in 1 year. And now it's like a rolling 5 years. They look at the reduction in enrollment over the last 5 years, and then they take an average of your average spent per kid. And that's the number that you can legally reduce by. But you have a reduction right now. So that should help, you know, it should help from an MBR perspective.
Thank you for the clarification. Good.
You're very welcome. And like I said, if please send me that, what you have in detail, and I can get confirmation on it and just double check my 15-foot level to, you know, a more core level.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, I think Catherine is right. And you know, over the past several years, we've taken major hits with our ECS. And I said, I think based on that, they did relax our requirements under MBR. And I would assume, given the times we're in right now, that should be given some strong consideration again.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anybody else have any concerns that they'd like to voice to Tammy, Esther, Jesse, and anybody, Angie?
Nope. Excuse me.
Go ahead, Valerie.
Yep. All right. I don't know. I mean, I can look it up on the internet, but I don't know what MBR means or what ECS means.
MBR is the minimum budget requirement. So the way that the state of Connecticut works from a education budget perspective, if you budget $1 million this year, you have to budget $1 million next year. It's your minimum budget requirement. Every time your budget goes up, it becomes your new minimum.
Okay, I get that now. I thought it was N. Now I know it's M. So what does the ECS mean?
ECS is your education cost share. So technically, the state of Connecticut, by constitutional law, is required to provide a free and public education to every child in the state.
Okay.
They abdicate that responsibility to the towns, and in return, they give every town a grant that goes toward their education cost. It doesn't nearly cover it, especially for us small towns out here. But it's a grant that is calculated by a base level. It takes into consideration your net grand list and your average median income. It also looks at how many children you have on free and reduced lunch. And it also looks at how many children you have that are English second language learners.
Okay.
All of those factors figure into how much money the state decides that it's going to help you pay for education.
And then they divide it by 2 and subtract another 1,000.
Yeah. They only fund it by 75%. And then, you know, you're lucky if you get whatever.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. Anybody else have any questions for Tammy? Any observations? Any concerns?
I have something to add.
Sure.
It has to do with the Wagon Shed Cattle Rock property. The grant that we're looking for is $250,000.
Okay. Yep.
How far
And
is that
that's
going to
for
get us,
cleanup.
Catherine?
Sorry?
How far is that going to get us?
We believe that will get us through the remediation of the property. I believe it's the full remediation.
Okay.
So, but I think we'd have to look at what's in the application just to make sure. And I can do a follow-up on that. That is my understanding.
Catherine, are you aware of whether once that cleanup or the remediation is complete, is it then considered, I'll put in air quotes, clean, or do we have to test again?
I believe as part of the remediation, it becomes clean because they will do final testing to ensure it's clean.
Okay,
Okay, they've already identified where it's not and what
Yep.
needs to be done.
okay, good. All
Chuck,
right.
past experience, they will probably, as part of a final approval or a sign off, they will be putting in some monitoring wells that will have to be followed up on from time to
Good.
time. I'm going to assume that just from other situations similar to this that we've experienced over the years.
Yep. All right, guys, thank you.
This is Jesse. I just have one more question for Catherine and Bill regarding that property. I attended a meeting, I want to say it was about a year ago, and it was with the engineering or environmental firm, and they said that they found nothing more of any contamination, I thought. And I thought that was kind of like what they were saying, and it was just being brought back to EPA and DEEP to see what they thought. Was there more released after that it wasn't found that way?
I think what they, if I recall, I think what they were saying was they had identified where the areas were that needed to be remediated because they were doing quite a bit of testing to figure out where all of them were. And I didn't think that they were saying that they were done with their remediation, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, because I left that meeting kind of thinking that they had identified it and it wasn't as bad as they thought it was. And
to tell you the truth, I don't think that meeting was run well. I think that some people did leave with some a different sense of where it really stood. So maybe what I can do is make sure that I can put together a summary, if you like.
okay,
This says exactly where they really meant, what they really meant to say. I think they were there was a little bit of editorializing in there because I think that they were looking to maybe pick up the contract for whatever going forward. So it's a little bit of marketing. It sounded like there was in there. And I don't know, Bill, you were at that meeting too.
I was. If I could just add a little to that, Jesse, I believe what they did was they went back and retested all of the known problem areas.
Right.
And found for the most part the remediation had remained consistent. There were some other areas around where the old building of the wagon shed actually was, and another pond that was in the back that they did some follow-up testing. They did come up with some minor things, nothing major, but I think those are the bulk of the remediation left to be done, and the $250,000 that we're applying for.
okay.
All right, very good. Anybody else with a comment or question for Tammy? All right, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, but I wanted to thank Representative Nucio for joining us and being engaged in what we're trying to do here. So
you're very welcome. And if you need anything at any time, Catherine has my contact information. I'm not going to make her suffer through it again, but she has my contact information. And I'm always available, be it by phone or email or whatever. So please reach out if you have anything that I can help with.
thank you. Esther,
Thank
you have a comment.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to be unmuted for some reason earlier. So it actually, I just wanted to make sure that I understood some of the question answers that went to our state representative.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think it was Carl or Mr. Kovac, I'm not sure, question about money from the state or reliability of input to our budget was, so for clarity, were we hearing that it's our expectation that ECS or LoSiP or any of the money that normally comes into our budget is expected to be on time this year? Is that what the question was? The answer was? I'm just.
The answer was that Governor Lamont has said, he said it was either yesterday or the day before, that he does not plan to make up the $2 billion shortage by taking money from the municipalities. But the governor's budget proposal is due to us in February. The governor's budget proposal is a suggestion. Legislators then go in and kind of make their own budget. So we're gonna have to just be very loud and try to keep them to that commitment that the governor made. As far as ECS, you're gonna lose money every year for the next 6 years until we get down to that base number. But hopefully we get a commitment, and we know a session is supposed to end June 9th, which again is already after we're done with budgets. So as soon as I have anything, I will be getting it over to you guys. But I may be calling on everybody to write letters and be just as vocal as me, and that we need to know early and we need to have reliability.
So ECS money is not expected to be on time this year, and it's anticipated to be less. And I just had a question about, you mentioned MBR, that some towns or municipalities have reduced based on changes in their population and on ECS figures. But it was my understanding that any town that tried to do that last year got hit with a lawsuit.
Not that I know of. Now, as far as ECS should be on time. I don't think ECS has been late, because that's a separate grant program, but it will be less based on the formula that they put in place in 2017. But MBR has been loosened, like Catherine said, it's been 2 years, I think, that they changed the regulations, and that's a state. It's a state guideline. It's a state rule, so it's there for you to take advantage of. So I can't imagine that you'd be sued for doing it as long as you're staying within the guidelines, which has to do with your reduction in headcount over the last 5 years and all the other pieces of the formula.
And Chuck, we usually get those figures in October, right? After the budget's passed?
We usually get that stuff after the budget, but we'll just see what we have to deal with. Yes, in October.
The ECS number should be available. I have
Yes.
that. I can get that to you. That number is a constant number. For you guys, it would be what you got last year minus, I think it's around 65,000. It's like 64 something is what your new ECS number is. I can get that. If you don't have it, I can get that over to you, because that's a standard.
Yeah,
plan number.
we have that. We'll have that.
Yeah.
I was thinking the last 2 years ECS had been late, but I had a separate comment based on Carl's suggestion about the Cradle Rock property. And that was that I know in the past, Susan Eastwood was looking at solar panel project following whatever remediation. And then well prior to that, in fact, when they did the discovery about the contamination, it was Torza's was looking to franchise a golf driving range, and that was going to be the intent of that piece of property. So just kind of an FYI. I'm going to go back on. So that's kind of, I wanted to lump all my comments in one because I have a hard time going on off mute. Thank you.
Thanks, Esther.
I think what we do want to do is we do want to manage the public's expectations for that property. So I would, pull back in terms of what's being speculated as to its use in the future.
I agree, absolutely. We have absolutely no clue what it's going to be used for until we get it cleaned up. It's
moot.
Useless to speculate. We have to get by this hurdle.
Keep the horse in front of the cart.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think something everybody's got in mind is we don't own that property at this time.
Right.
Correct.
Oh, it's not town-owned property?
No,
It's owned by Cradle Rock, and all of the liens in that are on them right now.
But you guys are doing the remediation.
That's right. We decided to go ahead and get it remediated. So there's
Otherwise, it's going to sit there forever.
Have to be made. That's why we're not putting it out there as a wish list item until appropriate time.
Interesting.
Changes the picture a little.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, with the liens that you guys have on it and the EPA and everything else, and if it, yeah, we'll have to have a conversation.
Been going on for years.
Yeah. I
I
definitely need to
mean,
get up.
basically, we'd like to get it back on the tax rolls. If
Yeah.
we have to leave that, that's one thing, but in any case, we'd like to get that working for us, so we've got some money coming the other way right now.
Right.
Absolutely. All right, well, I won't keep you guys any longer. Please, as I said, if you have anything that you need help with or anything, please reach out. And Catherine,
We'll see each other soon.
yes.
Very
All
good.
right,
Thank
I'll
you.
talk to you guys later. Have a good evening.
All right,
You
thank you
too.
very
Thanks
much.
for sharing.
Bye. Nice to
Next,
meet you.
next agenda item is Selectmen's update. Catherine, it's yours.
Okay. Bear with me as I go through this. I have really one thing I wanted to talk with you about, and if you have any questions about anything else, I'll be glad to respond. Unfortunately, we had a property that was a 4-family property built, it's not in compliance with building codes. And it was inspected 2 days before Christmas by the state. And as a result, the state put a Directive 10 on it, which means that what was wrong with it could not be fixed within 4 hours. So we had to relocate all of the town had to relocate all of the people that were living in that building. So we put them in the Ashford Motel, we put them in the Stores Inn, and we have been working with them to find them permanent housing. Now, we are required, I'm trying to make sure I got the right thing in front of me here. We are required by the Uniform Relocation Assistance Act. The town is required to do this. So this is hitting one of our budgets, our social and youth services budget. So I anticipate very roughly, that the overall cost for this is going to be somewhere between $17,000 and $20,000. When it comes down to the attorney's fees, where we've gotten guidance, where it comes down to what is allocated to each family, there's a cap, what's allocated to each family to help them. Melissa has done an outstanding job of finding places for them, helping them.
Catherine, I'm going to interrupt 1 second for Valerie's sake. She's referring to Melissa McDonough.
Okay.
Cheryl has been awesome in helping us work with the different places where we put them in temporary housing. And we believe that 2 of the 4 families have found another place to live and are moving into them. And we're working with the other 2.
And so, Catherine, this is an informational for the Board of Finance.
Yes.
There's nothing that we have to act on. What Catherine is letting us know is that this is a reality that's gonna affect our budget, but it's not something that we have any power to act on.
Correct. I'm just giving you a heads up, and the way that we're going to handle it is we are going to overspend our social services budget by whatever is required. And then we will tally up at the end and see where we end up overall with the entire government budget and see if there's anything that can be absorbed. But the other part of this is that in reality, the homeowner, the landowner is accountable for these costs. So should that person not provide remuneration to the town, then we would ultimately be putting a lien on the property and everything that goes with that. So it could be a drawn out process to get the money back. We don't know. So I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So Catherine, what you're implying is that it could be literally years before we get money back.
Depends. Yep, depends.
Right. Okay.
And also that building owner will need to, if that property is to be lived in again, that building owner will have to make significant improvements.
Anybody have any questions for Catherine?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
If that's so, I heard you talk about a lien, and so what I'm wondering is that property owner is living somewhere else where that's not condemned. So why not file a lawsuit for the funding, and then they can't just abandon a condemned property. They actually have to sell whatever nice digs they're living in that is not condemned to pay for a judgment.
I think that will all get worked out once we have the full tally for this. I mean, really right now, our focus is getting those people into permanent housing. And after, we've already been in contact with the attorney on how to handle this. We need some real guidance. We're not used to getting hit with so many families at the same time and in such a short period with no advance notice. So, like I said, Melissa's done a fine job of kind of, staying on her feet with this. And what we will do is we'll make sure that we're doing everything we can to get those costs paid back as soon as possible. Looks like Carl has something. No? Did that answer your question, Esther, or your comment?
No, sounds good. Sounds like you have counsel and you're going to be able to work it out, with all the resources. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else with a question for Catherine? Catherine, thank you very much for joining us and helping us through and so forth. Next agenda item is budget review of the Board of Finance's request that's going to be submitted to the selectmen. I believe that we were supposed to have those budgets submitted by the 13th. I submitted mine today, so I'm a little late. However, so what we're talking about is the Board of Finance's share of the budget. We have, roughly a dozen items that we take a look at. Last year's budget from the Board of Finance was $26,950. I made a few changes to the budget coming from us, and what I've submitted is a budget of $27,400. The adjustments were twofold. One, I tried to get the recording secretary's line item a little more in line with what I think we're going to be spending based on the number of meetings that I have scheduled and her rate. What I did do is I subtracted a couple meetings just in case, because I know we'll probably cancel a couple of them anyway. The other thing that I did is I added under the line item of consultants, I added $350, which I pulled out of my hat to help with our annual report obligation. I think that it's important that we start having somebody help us assemble this. And I'll have Jesse speak to this in a minute, but we found somebody to help us with this year's who was willing to do it for free. I personally am uncomfortable with that. I would like to have the ability to compensate that person that could spend a fair amount of time. However, it's a budget that can be reviewed and modified. So I wanted our board to know what my thinking was when we put this together. And we will have, the selectmen will review this. They'll make their adjustments because this is their budget. And it will come back to us and we will be able to review it again. But I just wanted you guys to know what I put in front of them, that presumably we're trying to defend. Anybody have any questions? Next agenda item is the town annual report update, and I'd like to have Jesse speak to that.
Sure. At this, this is Jesse, by the way. At this point in time, I forwarded the report on to Cheryl, having it being put together by that volunteer. And to the best of my knowledge, it's complete and just being waited to be sent to being published. Cheryl, Chuck, is that right at this point in time?
Cheryl, what's your take on things? Do we need to take one more quick review of it before we send it off for publishing?
You can if you want. I don't think Laura sent it yet, but she has been in contact, and we were waiting for a quote.
Okay. All right. And I, just so the board knows, I think we're looking at like 25 copies or something like that. And, you know, we'll also get it up online, so it'll be available to everybody digitally. But I think it's important to have some hard copies around for a few people.
Then also on that, just to speak of, I took all the reports and just kind of compiled them, but then it was obvious that the problem of some font being big, some font being small, margins being all over the place. So certainly having somebody paid to actually compile it so that it looks as a professional report is kind of where Chuck was mentioning about adding that line item for the consultant fee.
Any comments on that from board members? Judy, do you have a thought? You know, what do you think about the idea of having somebody, you know, help us compile this thing?
I'm fine with it. I know that Jesse had spent a ton of time doing it. I know we need help making it look professional. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, objections, observations?
Nope.
Geez, Bill, that sounds really ominous.
Doesn't it though? Excuse me.
That George Thorogood, like Fazit Bone, right?
All
I
right.
noticed your display name of AOL.com kind of brings back memories.
Thanks, Garth. The next agenda item is agenda items for the next meeting, which is January 21st, 2020, which is a regular meeting. I don't have any agenda items at this time. Does anybody have anything they want addressed? I should make one clarification. I am going to do expenditure and revenue. So we'll do a review. Next agenda item, remarks for the good of the board. I want to thank everybody for being here. Bill, Catherine, Paul, it's nice to see you. Esther, it was nice to have you here today. And everybody else. I really appreciate all your help trying to get us from A to B every time we meet. Carl,
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second, Angie DeSanto.
Angie, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Night, folks. Stay safe.
Good night,
Opposed?
you too.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Michael, thank you.
Good night.